How's it going, you big beautiful bastards? Welcome back to another career resimulation. Today we have the one, the only, the Nigerian nightmare, Christian Okoye. Shout out to this comment right here for suggesting Christian Okoye. He actually did it on a video prior to this, but he did it again in this one, so I just used this comment because it's the more recent one and was the easier one to find for me. As you can see right here, we have Christian Okoye all big and jacked with his giant pads. I wish I could make them a little wider, but I don't think that's really an option. Now, I have the pad height and everything maxed out, but Christian Okoye's pads like spread out way past his shoulders, so that's how it's gonna look. I want to make him bigger, but I can't. It's funny, I didn't know much about Christian Okoye going into this, but his school, Azusa Pacific, where he went to college, was a D2 school, and actually in its history has 4 NFL players, where you have Doug Barnett way back in 1982 as a center that was drafted. Then in 87 you get Christian Okoye, and then you get Terrell Watson, who was a running back that signed with the Bengals in 2015 as an unrestricted free agent, and since then has played for about 8 different teams. Then the only current starter to come out of Azusa Pacific is Matthew Orzech, who is currently the starting long snapper of the Green Bay Packers. Orzech is also a Super Bowl champion because he was the long snapper of the Rams the year that they won the Super Bowl. Going into this, as you can see, he's the projected 19th pick in the first round. It's funny enough, you go over here to halfbacks, I actually had him below Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, yet throughout the season he managed to move above both of them and is now the projected first running back taken. I actually have him set as 25 years old too, because that is when he was drafted. He didn't start playing American football until he was about 23, because I think he was 21 when he moved to the States from Nigeria. We'll jump right into the draft. He was also a college track and field star, and I think that's kind of what opened the door for him to get into football. And then he went on to become a pretty iconic running back in the Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Fame. He is not in the NFL Hall of Fame. He did only play 6 years in real life, though. The Bucks are kind of in limbo. I guess they still have Lenny in this, so they probably won't take him as they get Levis. The Raiders have Jacobs, so they won't. The New England Patriots might be the team. No, they take Zach Strong. Okay, the Falcons won't. They have like 7 different running backs. The Packers have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, so they won't. The Cardinals, probably not. The Chiefs have Isaiah Pacheco, who's still young, so I doubt it. Yep, and now we're on to round 2, where the Texans once again have a chance, and they don't. The Lions could. Oh my God, he's going to Detroit. Christian Okoye gets to go to the Detroit Lions and team up with goofball Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Penei Sewell, an already very good offense. But actually, I say a very good offense. This is Madden. They hate the Detroit Lions. No matter what you do, Detroit will always be bad unless you're controlling them, I swear. I do actually remember, though, they did make a Super Bowl in the 2005 sim, but that didn't have Jared Goff in it. And we'll see what they can do with Okoye. I'm kind of curious to see how this team does. I'm also kind of curious to see how long Goofball actually lasts as the starter, because they tend to get rid of him after like a season. Hey, that's not Dan Campbell. Who are you? I'm upset. I wanted Dan Campbell to be here, but the Lions AI decided to fire him going into this season. So DeAndre Swift is actually currently the starter over Christian Okoye. That means DeAndre Swift is going to get traded. Where did he sign? Did he sign anywhere in real life? Yeah, they traded him to Philly, I think. Give us like a 4th round pick. And now here we go into Christian Okoye's rookie season, where you get Jared Goff, you get Christian Okoye as the starting running back now that DeAndre Swift is gone, Amon-Ra St. Brown with his X Factor, DJ Chark, J-Mo in receiver 2. You get Irv Smith Jr. at tight end, Penei Sewell only at an 88. I feel like Penei Sewell should be like a 93 or higher. God, I actually can't wait to watch the Lions next season in the real life NFL. I think I've said in the past, I have 2 friends that are Lions fans, so like I've become a Lions fan myself from watching the season of Hard Knocks with them and seeing Dan Campbell. I've started to kind of root for the Lions on my own terms, as on top of being a Steelers fan. As we simulate through Okoye's rookie season, I do want to stop and say thank you guys for all the support recently. We are now over 750 subscribers, which is really cool to see. So if you guys enjoy the resims and you have any recommendations for other players, please feel free to leave them down in the comments. I'm a little backed up right now and have a couple to catch up on, so I'm going to be trying to do 2 a week, but I also moved this Saturday that the video is going up, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to get 2 up this week. But my plan is to have this video up on Thursday. And if you guys do enjoy, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, but as I always say, that choice is yours. I'm just happy that you're here watching the video. They actually made the playoffs in Okoye's rookie season, going 9-8, finishing 2nd in the division behind the 12-5 Green Bay Packers. Goofball Goff threw 4,842 touchdowns, really showing them how it's done. We go over here to rushing, where you had Christian Okoye with 276 carries, 1,060 yards, 8 touchdowns, 57 broken tackles, 36 yards after contact. I feel like that number should be a lot more. His longest run was only 9 yards, so he didn't have any break breakout yards. It's pretty crazy to think Okoye weighed like 250 coming into the NFL, but ran a 4.440. It was like a 4.45. I say 4.4, but it was like a 4.45. We'll also take a look at Okoye's receiving stats as we scroll down here. He had 44 catches for 367 and a touchdown receiving. Now we can go over here and we can look at NFC offensive player or offensive rookie of the year, I guess, and see how he did. As Amon-Ra was second in offensive player of the year behind Booper Bupp. Okoye gets beat out by two quarterbacks that were taken in the first round, as you get Will Levis for the Bucks and CJ Stroud for the Panthers. There's Okoye in third, who is up to an 80 overall already. Now we go into Christian Okoye's first playoff game. They are playing the Carolina Panthers. I didn't look at their top three. It's a pretty common top three, but CJ Stroud is on this team, as Brian Burns, I'm sure, is in that top three. Carolina currently with a 3-point lead. They have the ball back. This defense does make a stop, so now we can jump in and we can see if Christian Okoye is going to really play, as there's 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Actually, Jared Goff comes out with an empty backfield. I don't know if that means Okoye split out wide or what that means. He is dropping back to throw. He hits the receiver. That's Irv Smith Jr. Now on a 3rd and 1, he comes out. He's got Okoye flanking him, who didn't get an X factor, surprisingly. He's just got a star right now. It's 3rd and 1. He does hand it off to Okoye, who finds a big hole and runs through the safety in Christian Okoye fashion. That's what I mean. This man was 250, just pure muscle. He was 33% body fat and ran a 4.4540. He comes out under center this time with Okoye flanking him. I hope this one, it is a handoff. Okay, the offensive line doesn't hold up for Okoye, though, who can only get one. Devonta Foreman was in the backfield for this play instead of Okoye, as Goff throws it to him out of the backfield, and he just runs right out of bounds. And now it's 4th and 8, and they're going to have to punt. OBJ is on the... Why is OBJ on the Panthers? He just had 101 and 2 touchdowns. This defense needs to... Okay, they just let Deshaun Elliott go for 34 yards. Wait, he fumbled? What the... Okay, the Lions have the ball back. There's 2.5 minutes to go in the game. The Lions are currently in field goal range to tie the game, but they obviously want that touchdown to win it, as Goofball is dropping back to pass. He throws a risky throw to Jamison Williams, bringing up a 3rd and 2. Okoye is in the backfield. They have a fullback in on this play. It's going to be a handoff, and Okoye powers his way through multiple people for the first down. Once again, Okoye flanked him in the backfield. Quick throw over the middle to Jamison Williams. Gets them inside the 10, down to the 9. Okoye is actually lined up out wide with Shaq Thompson and man on him right now. He is throwing in that direction, but it's not to Okoye, as that's DJ Chark, and they are now going to have to settle for the field goal on 4th and goal. In overtime, the Lions get the ball first. We're going to obviously jump in and see if Okoye can make a big play and get a big run here. They come out in the shotgun. Okoye is lined up next to Jared Goff in the backfield, and there's the handoff. There's a big hole, but he can't break that one tackle, and he fumbles. And he's going to return it and end the game in overtime. Oh my God, Okoye just threw. Jawan Thornhill just picked up that fumble and ended the game. Christian Okoye fumbled the ball. The Lions are going home in the wild card round, so I didn't think to look at his stats following that, so we don't know how he did in the playoff game. We do know he at least had 30 rushing yards and a touchdown. As now we go in here, and you have Goofball Goff, who's up to a silvery, still a 79. Christian Okoye did unlock his X factor, and you keep the same receiving core and same tight end, as we have Alex Ingold at fullback. I think he was there last season. I just didn't mention it. The only thing that really changed up is the guards got a lot worse. The offensive line is still pretty much the same, minus those guards. As you can see, the offensive scheme doesn't really fit what we have on this team, so I am going to end up changing it. It looks like West Coast Power Run is pretty fitting to this team, minus Goofball at quarterback, but they can figure that out as time goes on. Actually, I'm going to put it on Vertical Power Run, because I actually like the way this looks. And now we simulate through his sophomore season, and we're going to see how changing that scheme actually changes it up for his stats and for this team. They got so much better. They won the division, went 13-4. They had the number 17 ranked offense, the number 6 ranked passing offense, and the 20th ranked rushing offense, which I'll take. That means Okoye did at least get a little better. Jared Goff is around the same area with about 10 less touchdowns, though. You go to rushing, you get Okoye, who had 272 attempts for 1,100 yards and 13 touchdowns. Alec Ingold actually had 7 rushing touchdowns, which is a little crazy to see, as Amon-Ra St. Brown also had 5 rushing touchdowns. Receiving, once again, Okoye had a pretty good season with 419 and 2 touchdowns, so he had 15 touchdowns total. I don't think that's going to be Offensive Player of the Year or anything, but we will take a look. As we go to the NFC, and once again, it's Cooper Kupp, followed by Amon-Ra St. Brown. We go and look at best running back, where it's Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Kenneth Walker. You don't even get Christian Okoye on here until 8th. And now we move into his second career playoff game, where the team will be playing the Green Bay Packers in the wild card round, but they will be in Ford Field. The Packers starting quarterback is actually Anthony Richardson too, because Aaron Rodgers retired going into this season. It's actually a tie game at 24 going into the half. The Lions do score again as they get down the field and take a 10-point lead. Packers make it a 3-point game, and now they have a chance to tie it, and they don't. The game ends 34-31, and the Detroit Lions are moving on to the divisional round. Jared Goff threw for 354 and 4 touchdowns. AR-15 threw for 404 and 3 touchdowns. You look at player stats and go to rushing. You get Okoye with 11 carries for 43 yards and no touchdowns. You get Aaron Jones with 11 carries for 39 yards and a touchdown. Receiving, how did Okoye do? Christian Okoye had 3 catches for 23 yards and no touchdowns, as now we move into the divisional round for the first time in his career. And now in the second round, they take on the Philadelphia Eagles, who I don't even know if they have Jalen Hurts as often as he likes to switch teams in this. You get A.J. Brown, Darius Slade, Dante Demis Jr. Going into the fourth quarter, the Lions are currently up 21-3 and kind of running out the clock, 21-10, but that is where the game will end, and they blew out the Eagles. It was 21-3 for most of the game. At halftime, I think it was 21-3 to be honest, as Jared Goff is going to the NFC Championship game for the second time in his career, actually. The Eagles starting quarterback isn't Jalen Hurts, it's Marcus Mariota, who had 189 and a touchdown, as Goofball had 182 and a touchdown. Neither quarterback threw an interception. You go to rushing, where Okoye had 19 carries for 124 and 2 touchdowns. Yards after contact, he had 53. His longest run of the day was 55 yards. Receiving, he ended up with 4 catches for 26 yards. Irv Smith had 62 yards and a touchdown. Obviously not a huge passing game, as neither quarterback threw for over 200, but Okoye ran for 125. And now in the NFC Championship game, you get the NFC North matchup of the Minnesota Vikings and Justin Jefferson against the Detroit Lions. And it is now 28-7, 35-14. Late in the fourth quarter, the Detroit Lions, it's looking like, are going to fall in the NFC Championship game, 38-28. Goofball threw for 500 yards on the dot and 2 touchdowns, as they don't even have Kirk Cousins anymore. They have Jimmy DeMarco, who threw 297 and 4 touchdowns. Rushing, Okoye got shut down this game compared to the last one with 38 yards and no touchdowns, but Alec Ingold had 2 rushing touchdowns. Looking at receiving, Okoye had a really bad game where he only had 1 catch for 5 yards. But you had Amon-Ra and J-Mo who popped off receiving-wise, along with Irv Smith, as you had 3 guys basically at 100 receiving yards. Just like that, we move on to year 3. They had Super Bowl hopes and made that NFC Championship game, but fell just short. See, if this team could get Justin Herbert again, that'd be really cool. I know they've done that before. As we go into year 3, we lose Goofball Goff, and we now have a rookie quarterback in Andrew Hartley. Okoye is now up to an 84 overall. Oh my god, Amon-Ra St. Brown is gone. That's not good. You get a new quarterback who's a rookie and you lose your number 1 receiver is J-Mo, and you still keep DJ Chark, and now you have this Jordan guy. It's not Cam Jordan, it's Curtis Jordan, and Irv Smith Jr. is still here. I am not excited to see what this team can do without Goofball Goff. I don't know why they'd let him go after he just threw for 500 yards in a playoff loss. But now we send him on to the playoffs in his 3rd season and see if Okoye and this team, having lost their starting quarterback, can still make the playoffs. So I doubted them and they proved me wrong. Year 3, we're back in the playoffs as the Packers now have Nick Chubb, and they just lost to the Packers in the last week of the regular season. Let's go see how our boy Christian Okoye did. Andrew Hartley, not too bad of a start to his career with 4,335 touchdowns. Christian Okoye ends up with 1,200 rushing and 10 touchdowns, and what I'd say is his best season so far. I think that's more than he had last season. Receiving wise, you get J-Mo still doing pretty good. Okoye had 575 and 5 touchdowns receiving, so that's nearly 1,800 total yards and 15 touchdowns scored by Okoye this season. Yearly, oh my god, Mac Jones is MVP again. Why does this always happen? Why does Mac Jones just randomly decide to win MVP? NFC Offensive Player of the Year, you get Chris Godwin. Christian Okoye is all the way down here in 7th. NFC Best Running Back, you get Alvin Kamara, as Christian Okoye is all the way down in 6th. And now we move into the playoffs in year 3, where they're once again playing the Packers. They've played them at least the last 2 years. I don't know if they played them in his rookie season or not. It's not looking too hot right now. As going into the 4th, they're down 20. The Lions do score again, making it 27-14, 35-14, 35-21 is your final score, as they're once again going home in the wild card round. Andrew Hartley threw 355 and 3 touchdowns. The AR's 152 and 2 touchdowns, but I'm assuming Nick Chubb had a lot to do with this game. Yeah, Nick Chubb had a good amount to do with this game as he had 142 and 2 touchdowns, and even Antonio Gibson had more rushing yards than Christian Okoye, who had 8 rushes for 24. Receiving wise, you get J-Mo with 103. Okoye had 4 catches for 49, and in year 3, they're going home, and now we move on to year 4. I don't see him winning a Super Bowl with the Lions. I think he's going to have to switch teams if he has that hopes of winning a ring. As we go into the last year of his rookie contract, he has low overall interest to re-sign, which might be a good sign for him leaving. You still have Hartley here at a 78 overall now. Okoye is up to an 87, still with his X Factor. J-Mo's an 85 as they lost DJ Chark now, and our boy Jordan here is up to receiver 2. Irv Smith is still at tight end, so the offense is progressively getting worse, which as we're rooting for Okoye, you really don't want to see them start to get worse, but they might finally miss the playoffs here in year 4, but that might give them even more motivation to leave this team and go somewhere else to give them a better chance of winning a ring. This team continues to prove me wrong. They went 12-5 and won the division and now play the Chicago Bears in the first round, whose best player is Trayvon Diggs. As we go to the stats and awards, you had Hartley throw for 4,629 touchdowns. That's looking like average stats, so maybe Okoye had a better season as he ran for 1,517 touchdowns. He had 70 broken tackles, 305 yards after contact, and 97-yard longest run. Receiving, you also had Okoye with 475 and a touchdown, meaning that he had almost 2,000 yards of total offense and 18 total touchdowns. Yearly awards, you get Dak Prescott as MVP. Jalen Hurts did leave the Eagles and went to the Giants. That's got to be pretty painful for Eagles fans if that one were to happen in real life. In the NFC, you get Brandon Ayuk, who's also a Giant, for Offensive Player of the Year. Alvin Kamara in second. Okoye is in fourth, so best running back might be Kamara as Okoye gets second right behind him. He's still yet to win an award, but he's getting closer. That was his best season by far, as now we jump into another wildcard game against the Chicago Bears, this time with Mekhi Becton and Trayvon Diggs as their best players. We have Aiden Hutchinson, Christian Okoye, and Penei Sewell. I accidentally did the kickoff because I was looking down, so we just do this and we dive out the back of the end zone. They are down here in the middle of the third. They're down to the 3-yard line on a 2nd and goal. I kind of let them just get downfield this time as they are lined up in a running position here. This could be a handoff to Okoye, but the Bears have that offensive line stacked up right now. It is a handoff to Okoye, who's gonna get through the tackles and get into the end zone. He just pulled 2 guys into the end zone with him. That is a very Christian Okoye-like thing with his big-bodied self. Look at this. There's 2 guys that get on him, and he just yanks them both into the end zone with him to get the Lions the lead here late in the 4th. It is now a 3rd and 15, a 4th and 6 for Chicago. We'll jump in and watch this play and see if they can get this first down, or if they're gonna punt it. Never mind, it doesn't even matter. They have all 3 timeouts. I guess I could see why they punt it. Lucas Van Ness gets a big sack to bring up a 2nd and 19. It's now 3rd and 12. Oh my god, that's an interception by Isaiah Simmons. The Lions have Isaiah Simmons now, and the game's over. The Detroit Lions are going back to the divisional round in the 4th season of Christian Okoye. You had Andrew Hartley with 263 and no touchdowns. Justin Fields with 254 and 2 touchdowns. Justin Fields threw 2 picks, whereas Hartley threw none. You go to rushing, where you had Okoye with 65 yards and 2 touchdowns. You had Dalvin Cook, who's now a Chicago Bear, with 62 yards and no touchdowns. Receiving, you had Darnell Mooney popping off. J-Mo with 93. Irv Smith with 92. You had Okoye with 43. Now in the divisional round, they are playing the Carolina Panthers, which is a team that I think has CJ Stroud. As you can see, their top 3, Brian Burns, Derek Brown, and there is CJ Stroud. Coming out of the half, they are down 28. They're now down 24, and we're in the 4th quarter, and it is now a 28-point game again. Make that a 35-point game, and that's where it ends, 41-6, as the Lions get shut down in the divisional round by the Carolina Panthers. Andrew Hartley ended up throwing 238 and no touchdowns. CJ had 231 and a touchdown, so I guess the running game played a big part maybe, as Hartley threw 3 picks. Rushing, you did have Damian Harris for the Panthers with 78 yards and 3 touchdowns. Okoye had 10 rushes for 30 yards as he got shut down completely. And now we go into year 5, where he is a free agent to start this offseason. I don't imagine he signs anywhere other than Detroit, but we'll see. Going into year 5, Okoye does resign as he's up to an 89. Hartley's up to an 80. J-Mo's an 86. Curtis Jordan is a 75. And Irv Smith is regressing down to an 83 as Penei Sewell's up to a 95. Let's see if this team can continue with their magic in year 5 and make the playoffs for the 5th straight season in the very un-Detroit Lions-like way. And there it is. In year 5, they finally missed the playoffs with a 26th ranked rushing offense and 30th ranked overall offense. So Okoye might have regressed regressed a little bit this season, as Hartley had around the same yards and 31 touchdowns. Rushing, yeah, Okoye didn't even have 1,100 yards this season, but he did have 12 touchdowns. You go to receiving, where Okoye had his best season receiving with 513 and 2 touchdowns, but I don't think that's going to be best running back or offensive player of the year. We'll take a look at it just to make sure. As Bryce Young is your NFL MVP. NFC, he's not even here in the top 10. Amon-Ra left to go to the Niners. Best running back, he is on that list, but he's all the way down in 6th as he's up to a 90. McCaffrey and Nick Chubb are 1 and 2 with K9 behind them. And now, following the first disappointing year of his career, they move on to year 6, where he's already going to be pushing 30. As we now move into his 6th season, they did get a better receiver too with Carruthers here. Irv Smith is up to a gold. Hartley is up to an 82. Christian Okoye is a 90. And J-Mo is an 87, as they did finally lose Taylor Decker after I mentioned him last season, but Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell are still here. He's got 2 more years left on this contract, so let's see if in year 6 they can make the playoffs. In year 6, they once again missed the playoffs. They barely missed it this season, though, going 9-8, so that's a plus. They're at least still doing better as he goes into the last season on his contract. He did not have the best year rushing. He barely broke 1,000 yards, but he had 17 touchdowns, and then you go on to receiving, where he had 374 and 2 touchdowns. It's honestly one of his lowest yardage seasons so far, but touchdowns-wise, he had 19. Jalen Hurts for the New York Giants is your NFL MVP. Najee Harris is Offensive Player of the Year in the AFC. NFC is Chris Godwin. There's Jalen Hurts in 2nd. Let's go look at best running back, where you have Nick Chubb, K9, and then there's Christian Okoye. He's still, again, yet to win an award. We move on to year 7, though, as he's looking pretty good, but also at the same time, he's had a couple off seasons in a row. But at this point in time, I'm pretty sure he's already passed his real-life self yardage-wise. I'll have to take a look at that and see how that looks. As we go into year 7, our boy Christian Okoye is pushing 32 years old already, as he's up to a 91 overall. Hartley's up to an 84. They still have J-Mo. They still have Carruthers. And they still have Irv Smith, who's starting over this boy Kidd, who is the fullback right now. He's a better fullback than he is a tight end, so that works for me. Curtis Jordan is also still here at receiver 3, as I think they can make the playoffs this season. I think the team got a little better. They went 9-8 and barely missed it last year, so I give them a good shot at making it this season. Year 7, they once again missed the playoffs, going 9-8 barely, though, as the entire team is in the green, so I feel like they should have been a little better, other than the rushing offense, though, which was ranked 14th. Go to stats and awards, so it's looking like the entire team should have had a better season, as you had Andrew throwing for almost 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns. You had Okoye with 1,200 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns. Receiving-wise for Okoye, he had 516 and 2 touchdowns. We look at the yearly awards. I really don't imagine that he won Offensive Player of the Year or anything this season, as Chris Godwin wins like his 3rd one in a row. Josh Allen is the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. We go to best running back, where it's Saquon Barkley, and Okoye is just behind him. He can't get to that number 1 spot. He's been twice now. He's been twice now. He's been 2nd twice now. Wow. God, I can't properly speak English. So now, as he is going to be turning 33 years old, we simulate to next season, his 8th season in the league, where he has the potential to leave the Detroit Lions once more. He didn't the first time. I honestly don't imagine he does the 2nd time either. And I was right. Going into year 8, Okoye does re-sign, as he's going to be 32 years old now. We look at his contract and see how long he re-signed for. He is back on another 3-year deal, so he's here until at least year 10, which might honestly be his final year in the league, because around that point, he'll be pushing 35, and most of the time running backs in Madden retire around that age. We still have Andrew Hartley here. We still have J-Mo here up to an 89. We have Lambert now, as Carruthers is gone. And we also lost Irv Smith Jr. We now have Kidd here as a starting tight end. As we simulate to the playoffs in year 8, this team is looking like they're getting a little worse, honestly. They've been on the precipice of the playoffs the last like 2 or 3 seasons. I don't know how good it's going to be this season, as they lost Irv Smith. Okoye lost his X Factor, and they lost receiver 2, who was Carruthers. So in year 8, they once again missed the... Oh no, they're the number 1 seed. Oh my god, I didn't even realize that. I thought they missed the playoffs. They're 13-4. The offense was ranked 20th, but the defense was ranked 1st, and the rushing offense was ranked 8th. I thought they completely missed the playoffs. I just blanked there, but they were 13-4, as Hartley had 4,600 yards and 31 touchdowns. Rushing, you had Christian Okoye with 1,053 yards and 17 touchdowns. His backup, Marco Jones, had 524 and 6 touchdowns. We go to receiving, where where you had Cedric Lambert pop off for 1,500 yards. You had Okoye with 286 and a touchdown. We look at the yearly awards where with his 17 touchdowns, I could see Okoye being somewhere up here higher on the NFC list, as Saquon is your offensive player of the year, so he's obviously going to be best running back. And Christian Okoye is all the way down here in 6th, as I was right. Saquon won best running back. Najee Harris is now a Saint and was 3rd on that list. Is now in his 8th season. They're going to play the Giants in the divisional round after having a first round bye. They have Nick Bosa and Kayvon Thibodeau. That is going to be a nasty pass rushing duo, as you have Luke Van Ness and Aiden Hutchinson, though, to make up for that on the Lions. 30-27, and now they just need to get the ball back. And they're not going to, as they're now down by 10, but just because I kind of want to watch him play in a snowy game, I'd hope they score here and the defense can make a stop, and they do. So the defense needs to make a stop as they have all 3 timeouts still. On a 3rd and 2, the most important play of the game, let's see if this Detroit Lions defense can make one stop. It's snowing out though, so the running back is going to be slippery as oh, it's a pass. He's dropping back and he's got the guy to the outside and it's caught for the first down, and that's going to do it. The Lions are going home. The number 1 seed loses in the divisional round. That was Brandon Ayuk, who now has an X factor. They're taking knees, and that is where the game is going to end. We don't get to see Okoye run in the snowy game, which is what I was hoping for, as Andrew Hartley threw 303 and 3 touchdowns. Casey Clemens threw no touchdowns. You had Devontae Watford with 62 yards and 3 touchdowns for the Giants. Christian Okoye had 45 yards rushing and no touchdowns, as Marco Jones got the lone rushing touchdown for the team. Cedric Lambert had 134 and a touchdown. And going into year 9, there is the lofty regression for Christian Okoye, as he drops from an 89 to an 83. Hartley's up to an 86. J-Mo's an 86. Lambert here is now a 78, and Virgil Kidd is an 82. And in year 9, they once again win the division, as they are playing in the wild card game this season, though, as they play the team they tied with from the NFC North, who both went 11 and 6, the Minnesota Vikings, who still have Jay Jettas at a 98. We go over here and we look at the stats. You had Andrew Hartley with 4,334 touchdowns. Rushing stats, Okoye regressed heavily, as him and Marco Jones seem like they're splitting carries, and he had 888 and 10 touchdowns. Receiving wise, Okoye had 253 and 2 touchdowns. I don't like that him and Marco are splitting carries, but he is getting old, so it makes sense. Yearly awards, he obviously isn't going to win best running back with that, as it's his first season under 1,000 yards, and the NFC Offensive Player of the Year is Najee Harris. We go to best running back. You have Najee, K9. He is actually still on the list, as he's all the way down here in 9th. And now to play the Vikings, whose quarterback is Colton Craig. They also have Enrique Russell. Once they get eliminated from the playoffs here, I'll have to take a look at our boy Okoye's career stats, where I don't think he's breaking any records, but he is at least going to be better than his real life self. They're currently down 7. They're down to the 10-yard line. Okoye does have a chance to score a touchdown here, as it's looking like it's a pass, and I don't think he's out there. I say it's looking like it's a pass, like it's not an empty backfield, as Andrew is dropping back to pass. He takes a rough sack, as Brian Breesy has 3.5 sacks. This time he comes out. He's got Okoye in the backfield behind him on 2nd and goal from the 17. Now it's a pitch out to Okoye, who's going to get swallowed in the backfield, even though he was able to break 1 tackle. He has 9 rushes for 20 yards. Andrew's dropping back to throw. He's rolling out. He's actually going to take off from 22 yards out. He slides down inside the 10, as he is the team's leading rusher, most likely. The Lions defense managed to force a punt, and now here we go with an opportunity for this team to score again. It is a 3rd and 1. We'll jump in here. 2 minutes left. There's obviously not going to be many handoffs to Okoye, as there's under 2 minutes to go, as Hartley comes out on a 3rd and 1 with an empty backfield. He's got time to throw. He does complete the pass. Okoye has not been in yet on this drive, as once again he's dropping back to pass. He's rolling out this time. He throws on the run. What a dime on the run. This is like an Andrew Hartley sim for me now. I love that. That was a clean throw. He's going in hurry up, though. He's running it. He's throwing it. I just really messed that up. I stumbled over my words. This time, Okoye does come out lined up in the backfield behind him on a 4th and 2. They're going to hand it off. There's a hole, and Christian Okoye gets the first down to the 7. And yeah, I'm pretty sure they took Okoye out again, because I don't think he's lined up out there in a passing situation, as Hartley is throwing it towards the end zone, and it's caught in the end zone by Virgil Kidd. Off of that sack, I think that is going to be game game, and the Detroit Lions are going back to the divisional round, shutting down the Vikings. Andrew Hartley threw 258 and 2 touchdowns, including the game winner. Devin Akane with 48 yards and a touchdown. He's been in another one before. He was on our team. You get Christian Okoye with 27 yards rushing, including a big 7-yard rush that basically clinched the game. In the divisional round, they are playing the Atlanta Falcons, whose best player is a 99 overall Kyle Pitts, who's still hanging around. They also have Justin Herbert at quarterback now. That's a little scary. They're basically dominating this Atlanta Falcons team as we go into the fourth. It's 33-14, and it's looking like that's going to be the final score of the game, and they are back in an NFC Championship game in Christian Okoye's 9th year. Andrew Hartley threw 248 and 4 touchdowns as Justin Herbie threw 198 and a touchdown. We go to the player stats to see how Okoye did, where he had 77 yards and no touchdowns. He really stepped it up over Marco Jones this game, who only had 9 yards. You had Kenny McIntosh for the Falcons with 23 yards. Okoye, having not been to a Super Bowl yet 9 seasons in, this is his biggest opportunity. He is getting old. He is in his aging years, and it is time for this team to finally put the pieces together as they play the New York Giants with Kayvon Thibodeau, Nick Bosa, and Brandon Ayuk. It is currently 28-14. It is going to happen. The Detroit Lions are on their way to a Super Bowl. Christian Okoye gets his opportunity. The Detroit Lions with Andrew Hartley at quarterback, who threw 245 and 2 touchdowns. Casey Clemens for the Giants threw 227 and a touchdown. You go over here where you had Christian Okoye with 72 yards and no touchdowns. You had James Cook for the Giants with 60 yards. They are playing the Houston Texans, who are going to be led by CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. I can't remember which one is on that team. 2 alumni from the 2023 draft class now get to face each other in the Super Bowl as Daxton Hill is in the top 3 of the Houston Texans. We are in the middle of the third quarter here. I figured we might as well jump in a little early since we have an opportunity to see him win a Super Bowl. They are down 17-13. He is not in on this play as Marco Jones looks like he's in the backfield. Going into the fourth quarter, the Texans have the ball down 3 following that JMO touchdown. They tie the game with a field goal, so now we get another opportunity to see Okoye here. He is going to throw it though, as Okoye looked like he was wide open. Hartley's actually going to tuck it and run, and he is fast. He jukes one guy. Is that Vanilla Vic? Now on 2nd and 10, Okoye is to the right of Hartley. He's a little bit behind him, so this might be a handoff. It's not, but Okoye is wide open right there, and he doesn't throw it to him. He ends up hitting Virgil Kidd. Now on 3rd and 5, you once again have Okoye in the backfield. Hartley's dropping back to throw. What a block by Christian Okoye, and on the run, he throws a dime to Virgil Kidd. Oh my God, this is a fucking Brandon Hartley sim now. That might be the first time I've dropped an F-bomb in one of these videos. They forced the Texans to punt following back-to-back sacks, so now here we go, coming out up 7. This Lions team just needs to run out the clock. They come out, Okoye is not in the backfield, and for some reason, Hartley is still throwing, and that's exactly why. I don't know why he was throwing the ball. He just threw it right to Derek Stingley. Classic Detroit. They're going to try and throw the game, and there the Texans go, and now it's 3rd and 10, though. 4th and 10. This is a big play, and they punted. Okay. Bryce Young comes out with an opportunity to take the Super Bowl to overtime, and it took one. Oh, no, that was a fumble. Okay, that should be game. Luke Van Ness forces a fumble. He has the ball. Christian Okoye loses 3 yards. That time he runs for 5, and I think the game is basically over, but we'll jump in because I'm pretty sure they're going to hand it off again. It's going to be a touch pass. It's a fake touch pass. Hartley rolls out, throws it to the guy who faked the touch pass to, who makes the mistake of going out of bounds. We really are the Detroit Lions, but it is a 10-point game, and it should be over, and Brandon Hartley and Christian Okoye should now be Super Bowl champions with 2 seconds left. They just had to recover the onside kick, and there it is. There's Okoye celebrating. I actually don't know if his name's Brandon Hartley. I've just been saying that as there was Okoye. Once again, there's Hartley celebrating, hugging Bryce Young, as it's Andrew Hartley. Oh my God, it's not Brandon. I've been wrong this entire time. It's basically just been this playoff run. I started screwing up his name, but it's Andrew Hartley threw 370 and 2 touchdowns to Bryce Young's 296 and 1. You had Christian Okoye, who only had 17 yards rushing and a touchdown. Christian Okoye had 2 catches for 24, as I wonder if he does just walk off into the sunset. Now, we're going to take a look at his career stats first before we go into that. As we go over to Christian Okoye's career stats, he had 10,000 career rushing yards, 117 touchdowns. He had 1 fumble in his entire career, 490 broken tackles, 1,004 yards after contact. We go to his receiving stats. Receiving wise, Christian Okoye finished with nearly 4,000 yards and 18 touchdowns. And now we move into year 10, where he could honestly potentially retire after year 9 and winning a Super Bowl. Following the Super Bowl win, Christian Okoye is coming back for a 10th season. I figured he'd walk off into the sunset, but I'm here for it, Okoye. Give it another run. As we go on here, actually, Christian Okoye is no longer here. He had 1 year left on his contract, so I think he retired. Christian Okoye did retire. He didn't do it on the retirement screen, so he retired going into the season as he finishes with 1 Super Bowl, 1 championship, and the 2 yearly awards I think are Pro Bowl appearances. He didn't win Best Running Back at all or Offensive Player of the Year, but he did have 2 Pro Bowl appearances. He gets to walk off into the sunset a Super Bowl champion. The Nigerian Nightmare in his second time around basically doubles all of his stats and blows his receiving stats out of the water. His career went a little different this time around. He actually got to play 9 seasons instead of just 6. He ended up winning a Super Bowl this time around, but he's still not the best running back in the history of his team because unlucky for him, he went to Detroit, who have, in my opinion, the greatest running back of all time. That is going to be it for the video though, guys. This was a fun one. I really enjoyed doing Christian Okoye. I do have one more that I want to get done by Sunday, but I'm moving on Saturday, so if that doesn't get up, I apologize. I'm going to try to. With all that out of the way though, guys, thank you for watching. It has been fun. I will talk to you all later. Peace out.